Today on Locked On Rockies, Austin Gomber leads the way. Some timely home runs. The Rockies avoid the sweep and a nice win there in Atlanta. Let's take a look at the curious case of Austin Gomber and Whiff City.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 6th day of September in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Every time you like a video, every time you subscribe, every time that you let your friends know about the show, we really do appreciate it, and it helps the show grow. So please consider liking the video, subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff. Really, really does help the show. Really, really do appreciate it. On today's episode, we'll talk about Austin Gomber leading the way to the win for the Rockies and the total amount of strikeouts the Rockies were a victim of in this series. And I also want to talk a little bit more about Michael Toglia and his rise to not greatness yet, but comfort. And I think we're seeing a little bit of those, hey, it's that little sprinkle of how Brenton Doyle was looking like to finish the rest of the season. It's not one for one. It's not going to be the same, but I'm just pointing out that I think that you can see some stuff where you can see some stuff where you can bounce back from. So I continue to grow. That's what I meant. Just like we kind of saw with Brenton Doyle, where it's like, wow, we're really confident in this thing. Can this happen? And if it does happen, he'll turn out to be an extra special player. And that's what's happened with Doyle this year. And I think there might be some potential connections there between the two of them. So we're going to get into all that and more today. Before we do all that, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So Rockies last night, it started off how, like, kind of you were sitting there thinking, you're like, oh boy, here we go. Austin Gomber in the first inning, there's a run, and the Rockies are behind. And then from there, Atlanta completely held off their game. And this wasn't just a good start. This was a great start. I mean, a phenomenal start here for Austin Gomber. Something that you know, it's just so interesting that he can do stuff like this. Just out of nowhere, he'll pop up with these really good starts. And when you look at the big picture of stuff, he's still not a dominant pitcher. But for these to have for them to be able to see these types of starts and see the type of success for Gomber, it's great. 8 innings pitched. He allows 5 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 6 strikeouts against an Atlanta team that a sweep for them was huge. I mean, that was a team that needed every single victory against the Rockies here in that situation, because that loss yesterday for Atlanta really made that playoff race even more tight. I believe the Mets took a half-game lead over Atlanta in the playoff race in that series. So if you're Atlanta and you're coming in here, I mean, that matchup is literally one of the worst the Rockies can face. It's just when Gomber goes up against teams that can hit home runs, and I know the Braves aren't hitting home runs like they used to, but it's Braves versus Rockies. Let's be real here. When Gomber has to go up against those teams, you just the uncertainty in your stomach there is large, but that's impressive. That's a road appearance in which he held that entire lineup basically completely on their toes, on their heels, whatever the baseball saying is there. On your toes, I think, is a good thing. On your heels is the bad thing. But it just kind of keeps highlighting the fact that, man, when he's on, he dominates. 7 innings against Washington. He goes he gives up 3 hits, 1 earned off a home run, and 2 walks. He gets 5 strikeouts in that one. Against San Diego, he goes 7 innings. He allows 5 hits on 2 earned runs, 2 home runs, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. I mean, there are moments where Gomber does a really good job of keeping the Rockies in the game and taking the Rockies deep into games as well. I mean, Austin Gomber has gone into the 7th or later now. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times in the 5, actually 5, 6 times in the entire season. If you go to the 6th inning mark, that number gets a lot bigger when it comes to his starts. Austin Gomber does provide the Rockies more often than not, usually keeps them in the game. It's just the fact that it's not consistent enough. It just like everything else with the Rockies, you look at Austin Gomber's 2024 and it is a roller coaster. Let's just look at ERAs over the months here. We're taking out March. 3.95 ERA in April. 0.68 ERA in May. Balloons to a 9.39 in June. Drops down to 5.27 in July. Drops down to 4.37 in August. So for it's just such a roller coaster throughout the seasons with Austin Gomber. I mean, we have done this now a few times with him where it's just like, whoa. When that Austin Gomber we get last night comes up, you see it. It's the control of the movement stuff. It's the snap on the curveball. It's the making hitters uncomfortable. It's clear that he has the ability to do that, but it's the inconsistencies that get in the way, and it's the moments when things go south and where things get sour. That's when things go bad. I mean, and one of the things that I've been I really liked about last night's performance is we talked a lot about walks. We talked a lot about walks being a problem, and Gomber had until that appearance had at least 1 walk in his last, let's see, 9 starts. He had at least 1 walk, but goes in there and eliminates it and keeps it in. And some of those games are just 1 walk, folks. I'm just to be clear here. But that's it. The Rockies to win that game yesterday needed that type of start. They needed a start in which the pitcher was hitting the zone and making hitters miss. And that's exactly what Austin Gomber did yesterday. And he did it very effectively. Austin Gomber, once he gets out of that first inning, is just such a different person. It is amazing how much let's see if I can pull it up. Let's see. Austin Gomber stats in the first inning here. Oh, that's in this career. I don't want career. I just need. Let's get this one here. Bum, 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 bum. First inning. This is wild. Austin Gomber has made 27 starts this season. In the first inning, his ERA is 10.33. Batters are batting .364 against him with a whip of 2.037. 31 earned runs in the first inning alone. 11 walks in the first inning in that time as well. Easily the most. But then it just plummets until about the 4th, which is kind of makes sense where it's teams are some players might be seeing you for the 3rd time in that 4th. But it's so fascinating there when you're looking at how after the 4th, if Gomber can power through his 2 issue innings, he gets himself into a nice groove. In the 2nd and 3rd inning, his ERA is 3.33. He's allowed 20 runs total in those 2 innings there. And the 4th inning is his second problem issue. This is where it seems where everything kind of goes up, where in terms of earned runs. The ERA up to 5.04. A lot more. The same thing. 7 home runs given up in the first, 7 home runs giving up in the 4th. I think that's where that familiar. If you get to that top of the order again, feeling a little more familiar, feeling a little more because it kind of goes in that same type of vein, right? Where it's like, hey, jump at Gomber right off the rip, boom, super successful. And then the 4th inning, all right, we've seen Gomber a couple of times. Let's jump on him now. We got what we need. We're getting the read. We got the look. But if he survives those 2 innings, the ERA in the 5th drops to 2.55, the 6th 2.8, the 7th 1.27, and he's gotten to the 7th inning 8 times this season, which is pretty impressive, honestly. Batting average by the time it gets to the 7th, and it drops down to 207. In the 5th, it drops down to 205. Everything drops very substantially other than those 2 innings. It's just so weird. Like like I said, it is a curious case that Austin Gomber has these flashes, has these moments where he is excellent. He is great. And then, but it just can't maintain. And that is the baseball elements of stuff that Coors Field, XYZ, whatever you want to go in there. But it is really interesting when you look into that stuff. And it's like, dang. I mean, Austin Gomber is capable of doing that. Remember, like I said, Austin Gomber has started, let's see, 27 games he has started. He's gotten to the 8th inning. The 8th innings twice, and the 7th inning 8 times. I mean, he's taken the Rockies deep in a few ball games. 10 ball, not 10 ball games. It's not really necessarily how the math works there, but still. The point is, it's Austin Gomber. I think we already had this conversation technically. He's not an ace, but he does make for some really interesting stuff in the middle and the back half of your bullpen. If he could limit the bad innings, the bad damage, the situations where things get out of hand, his numbers, and everything would look a lot different. Mixed in with the fact that you absolutely love his personality and attitude on the mound. The guy is a fierce competitor and goes out there and handles business. You saw the emotion on the bump last night. You saw how important it was for him to compete in that game. I love seeing that. The Rockies are out of the playoffs. The Rockies are in a weird spot. The Rockies have a lot of things going on there. But Austin Gomber said, I'm going out there to do my job and perform and get the job done. And that's it. And major props for that. I mean, that was that's a tough matchup on the road with the Rockies facing a sweep. And Austin Gomber comes in there and shuts the door, slams the door on him. And arguably, I mean, if you're asking Gomber, that's going to be one of the best starts of his career. I mean, that is a really, really good game for Austin Gomber last night. And hey, you know what? While we're on the topic of pitching, a guy that I have definitely criticized this year, Tyler Kinley came in and did his job. Rockies, no frills, no nothing, just handle business when it came to the pitching yesterday. And the Rockies got enough timely hitting to get the job done as well, thanks to home runs from the young guys. Let's talk about the young guys. Let's talk about Michael Toglia coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, folks, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Ibotta. Ibotta, you botta, we botta. Ibotta's got you covered throughout your back-to-school shopping. You can stock up on all the things you need, school supplies, clothes, all the good stuff, all the stuff in between when you use Ibotta. What is Ibotta? Well, it's a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, that flight you've been eyeing, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, or use code LOCKEDONMLB. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Hey, for your second listen of the day, Locked On MLB, Sully's got you covered as he's breaking down all things baseball. And SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app has got you covered for your Rockies play-by-play action all season long. So don't miss out on that. And hey, have you been catching the Locked On Rockies postcasts going on from our boy Anilo Piro? He's breaking down all things Rockies after the games. Make sure that you are on that Locked On Sports Denver channel. Lots of cool stuff going to be coming to that channel. So if you're not subscribed over there and you want to stay up to date with Colorado sports coverage, well, you got to go there. I just talk Rockies over here. Well, that channel and the great Locked On hosts of the other Colorado sports doing a great job as well. So if you want to go check out that really, really busy time in the world of Colorado sports here, especially as what's going to happen with those two teams when the winter starts, what are going to happen with the rookie-led Broncos as the Rockies are going to wind down the rest of the season and try to remain relevant for fans throughout the rest of the season. That's going to be a tough one and probably a conversation we're going to have throughout the rest of this month. I really do think the conversation matters about relevancy. I really do think that matters. I really do think that we're going to have the Rockies are going to have to look at the dip in attendance numbers. The Rockies are going to have to look at the different directions the sports teams in Colorado are going and make the adjustments to stay relevant, to buy into the great sports culture of Colorado. So we'll see how that all pans out and talk more about that. For now, I want to talk about Michael Toglia. And I want to talk about why it matters. Again, we talked about this a lot yesterday, but it's important that Michael Toglia continues to be put on the path that he is. You can see exactly the impact it's having, and you can see that he's becoming more and more confident and comfortable. Are his numbers great? No, they're not. Is he striking out a lot? Yes. But you want to know what else he's doing? He's walked 22 times in his last 30 games. In that time, he's also struck out 33 times, but he's got 23 hits in that time. 3 of them for homers, 6 RBI. Michael Toglia getting the consistent playing time is only going to be these things that can start planting the seeds for us to feel better about the future for him. Now, when you're looking at things, he hasn't necessarily taken big steps up, but just from his first initial thing, from his first month of the season, the Rockies have seen considerable improvement. Since he returned to the Rockies in June, he's a better baseball player. Is he the elite version? Is he the best version of himself? No. But in April, his batting line was .93, .114, .372. That's average OBP and slugging right there. In June, he increased it to 238, 292, 48. In July, 233, 314, 567. And then in August, 237, 377, 419. Up, up, up. We're seeing up across the board. Slugging dipped there in August. Yes, it did. But when we're looking at OBP, when we're looking at batting average, better and improved with the consistent playing time. You want to know what else we've seen? 21 walks in the month of August. That's compared to 11 in July and 7 in June. The batter's eye is developing. The vision is developing. Things are developing for Michael Toglia. Again, work still needs to be done. But when I'm seeing these little baseline things, when I'm seeing these little things where that raise my eyebrow, I think of Brenton Doyle last year. How many times last year did we say, man, this part of the game is there, but the offense is atrocious? Can we see growth there? Can we see improvement there? And while we went, because Brenton Doyle in June of last year batted 189. In July, he batted 145. In August, he batted 163. But then here's the kicker. Here's the really interesting thing. And here's the thing that makes you that kind of can be the other looking point that we're looking at for Toglia. Brenton Doyle in September batted 261, 286, 477. That's a massive jump. Again, let's just go through the other lines leading up until September. 163, 198, 250. 145, 222, 236 in July. 189, 265, 284 in June. That's going through it. But the Rockies never gave up on Doyle last season, even going through it. The defense was good enough. Obviously, it was great enough, I should say, to keep him in there. And then with the Rockies consistently buying into him and Brenton Doyle having the opportunity before his best month of the season to have 4 months of Major League experience under his belt to go into September of last year, the final month, and understand what his job was. And his job last year was to be a better hitter in September. And that's what he did. So if we can continue to see Michael Toglia increase the numbers, remember, Brenton Doyle wasn't as offensive focused as we've had with Michael Toglia. But when I see that, if I see a strong September for Michael Toglia mixed in with the growth that we've seen over the last few months, I'm going to feel more confident in the next version of Michael Toglia, in 2025's version of Michael Toglia. I'm going to feel confident. Do I think it's going to be as big of a development and as crazy as a shift as Brenton Doyle? No, I mean, I think Brenton Doyle's growth and development has been one of the most underrated and underappreciated stories in baseball, to just see the jump that Doyle has made. But for Toglia, we're seeing the signs of improvement. We're seeing the defense be a factor. Michael Tolia's first base defense has impacted games. Michael Tolia's defense at first base has been a factor for the Rockies. It was a factor in the last out of the game last night. You haven't felt better at first base in a while, at least for me. Because, like, would you feel better with Chris Bryant over there? Would you feel better if the Rockies had stuck with CJ Cron, XYZ, or Montero, for example? Those are the other options that the Rockies would be going after or looking at in alternate universes and alternate situations this season. So it's not one for one. They're different players. But my point is, last year the Rockies committed to Brenton Doyle and let him go through the struggles and said, you're starting in center field. Go figure it out. You're going to go through it. And doing that with Toglia is exactly what he needed. It's exactly what the Rockies needed to do, because you have to be able to. We've talked so much about playing time. We talked so much about setting these guys up. You have to be able to provide these opportunities for these guys. If Chris Bryant was playing first base, Jake Cave was playing first base, all these guys were playing first base and blocking Toglia, we'd still have huge question marks about a guy that has pretty high comparisons. Remember, this guy's been compared to Todd Helton. That isn't of those words aren't lightly around here. So there's still a lot of growth that needs to happen. There's still a lot of things we need to see, but I do think that Michael Toglia is starting to put together a nice solid baseline for himself here, and a place to work from and grow from here in this season, and we'll see how he handles this final month of the season. Added with all of that is just the talent level that the Rockies will be facing in there in the last month of the season, and that hasn't really. I mean, the Rockies have faced good talent in the last 2 years in the last month of the season: Toronto, Arizona, Cubs, San Francisco, San Diego, Dodgers, Twins. Last year, that's a fun one. Finishing the season against the Twins. I forgot that's how it happened. That's a good time. And already this month, starting out with Baltimore, Atlanta, heading up to play Milwaukee next for the Rockies here. So we'll see what happens with Toglia. But I really do. I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Really liking what the Rockies what I really like the commitment to Toglia from the Rockies. And I really like that the confidence seems to be building, and the belief in being a major league ball player is building for Michael Toglia. All right, we do need to talk about one more thing from this series, and it's nothing new. But again, you can't strike out all the time. But the Rockies certainly tried. We'll talk about that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike on other apps, PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. That means if you know the players, you know the sleepers, you know who's going to have a big day, well, you are going to be able to pick that player. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. If you want to play PrizePicks along Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley, you can now find community plays under the promo tabs of the app to view on entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies stock right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Sully's got you covered for your second listen on Locked On MLB, and SiriusXM's got you covered for all your Rockies play-by-play all season long. The one thing, though, it's a win for the Rockies. A win for the Rockies indeed. But holy cow, good Lord, 16 strikeouts in that finale for the Rockies. In the game before that, 16 strikeouts for the Colorado Rockies on offense. In the game before that, hold on, let me get it. I'm pretty sure that one's even the biggest offense on the first game. No, I'm sorry. 13 strikeouts for the Rockies in game one. So what is that? 32. And then, so is that 46 strikeouts? 46 strikeouts. And yes, this is a Braves team that strikes out. It is number one in baseball, striking people out. But that's 46. 46. I mean, what is the analysis there? What more to say? I mean, yes, they have good strikeout pitching, right? But when you strike out at that rate, when you strike out, if the Rockies played, the Rockies almost would have struck out for every out in 2 straight games with how many times they struck out over the last 3 games. That type of stuff is part of the growing pains. Yes, it's part of the fact that the Rockies were playing the young guys. But again, it is like when you see those and when you see the young guys doing that, and you're just like, one, very difficult to hit these guys. Very difficult. I'm totally acknowledging that. But again, I go to prep. I go to preparation. I go to that. Like, there was nothing the Rockies had. There was nothing on their iPads and all that stuff. Nothing on their game planning side to make an adjustment throughout that entire series to avoid striking out at minimum 13 times. 13 times? Like, that's crazy. I mean, the 13 isn't even the craziest. 16 times in back-to-back games the Rockies have struck out. 11 strikeouts for the starter yesterday for the Braves. That's a problem, man. That's a huge problem. You're no one. I mean, when you look at the lack of offensive production in this series, you're not surprised at all. The Rockies in this series scored 5 runs over 3 games while striking out over 40 times. You could call it the road effect. You could say the matchup. You could say whatever. I'll say this: it's unacceptable. That type of stuff has to start being phased out and eliminated in the games. The Rockies can't. That type of stuff at this point in the season can't be happening. I need to see better. And let's be real, the umpires, a little extra credit on some of those strikeouts. Let's be real, but strikeouts are the worst out. They're so unproductive. They don't help you at all. And when you're the Rockies and you need to generate offense, when you need to get runners on, when you need to get things going, and you need to capitalize on your opportunities. The Rockies had hits. Rockies had base runners in these series. Rockies had runners in scoring position throughout the games in this series, but they couldn't capitalize because they're too busy whiffing, swinging and missing, looking outmatched, looking overpowered. That's when you get frustrated as a Rockies fan, when you're watching them get mowed over like that. You just go back to preparation and the talent, absolutely. But for me, I do go back to preparation. Other bad teams haven't struck out at that level against the Braves in a 3-game series like that. So why are the Rockies different? What is different about the Rockies' approach that's getting in the way, that's making it a problem, and keeps getting and making them a team that swings and misses? That clearly this aggressive style might work for some Rockies players, but not all. Because getting these guys down early in counts to these pitches, they're going to get either pinched by the ump, or they're going to be too aggressive. I really do worry the Rockies are teaching too much aggression on offense, but it's a weird balance to have because you don't want the Rockies just sitting back and missing out on pitches that they have opportunities to hit. And hey, Michael Toglia and Ezekiel Tovar didn't miss their pitches yesterday as they continue to hit some nice home runs and impress for the Rockies. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. Rockies taking on the Brewers in what should be an interesting weekend series before heading to Detroit to finish off the road trip. We'll be breaking it all down right here on Locked On Rockies, so don't miss out. Make sure you like the videos, subscribe, leave your comments. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And folks, for your second listen, go check out Sully from Locked On MLB. He's got you covered. Or if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming and available for you. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden, bringing you this Locked On Rockies podcast, saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.